TYT Politics, coming to you with some breaking news. Yes, you can consider this news horse racy, but I do think that it is important because the leadership in the White House and the leadership of our country is proving day in and day out to be even more incompetent and even more self-interested, the individual players in the White House, than we previously thought. So Anthony Scaramucci, the White House communications director, has been fired after 10 days. Unbelievable. So Sean Spicer was previously in his position, was fired. Anthony Scaramucci was appointed by Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, and after 10 days, he is gone. So here are some of the details that we know right now. At the request of the new White House Chief of Staff, John F. Kelly, who replaced Reince Priebus, I just said White Priebus, a Freudian slip. He replaced Reince Priebus, John F. Kelly. He fired Anthony Scaramucci. It was his decision. This is extremely ironic because Scaramucci was the reason that the previous Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus, was fired in the first place, and then he is fired by the new Chief of Staff. So, ironic for Scaramucci, unfortunate for him. This reminds me of Tyrion in Game of Thrones when he he ousted Pycelle because Pycelle had previously stabbed the other hand of the king in the back. So he also didn't want to get stabbed in the back. Very smart move, maybe, by John F. Kelly. So on Thursday, Scaramucci accused the Chief of Staff of leaking his financial disclosures, saying he was going to report him to the FBI on Twitter. But the reporter who actually reported on those financial disclosures said her source was not Priebus, but the Export-Import Bank, and the records were publicly available. So there was no way that it would be viable to report him to the FBI. I mean, that was crazy. He tagged Reince Priebus on Twitter and said, "I'm going to report you to the FBI," while he was still Chief of Staff. So the infighting is so public. I mean, Nixon's administration had a ton of infighting, but it was never this public, but they also did not have Twitter back then. The reporter again said that Priebus was not the source. Scaramucci was hired as the communications director by Trump over the objections of Priebus himself and other aides. Within days of arriving in the West Wing, Scaramucci publicly accused Priebus of leaking damaging information about him in the media and disparaged him in a profanity-laced interview with The New Yorker. In the interview, he called Priebus a effing paranoid schizophrenic. He called Steve Bannon, the top strategist to Donald Trump, someone who sucks his own C word. That's profanity laced. I like that description, to say the least. It's also someone who clearly does not understand how to be professional whatsoever. I mean, who would grant that kind of interview to a New Yorker reporter when you are one of the top officials now in this White House? You're disparaging your own compatriots, essentially. You're disparaging the people who are supposed to be on your team. But that's what happens when you build a White House of entirely self-interested people, and you are led by a self-interested person who has no interest in actually creating a cohesive White House, one that's moving towards a goal. People are just stabbing each other in the back left and right, trying to get their own political advantages out of the situation. They are all self-interested. I mean, it is truly unbelievable that he was fired this soon after, but he certainly committed fireable offenses. John Kelly probably was like, "I saw how you treated Reince Priebus when you got your taste of power. Why would I ever trust you to treat me any differently when I'm trying to tell you what to do?" The firing of Mr. Scaramucci, who has boasted about reporting directly to the president, not the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, came at Mr. Kelly's request, the People said. Mr. Kelly made clear to the members of the White House staff at a meeting Monday morning that he is in charge. So now this is John Kelly puffing his chest, saying that he is going to run the White House like a military operation, which seemed to appeal to Trump, which is why he allowed him to be the Chief of Staff, and ousted Priebus, who was really the carrot that the Trump administration dangled in front of the Republican establishment to say, hey, we are going to bring you into the fold. We bucked the Republican establishment, but now we are going to try to make peace with them now that we have won the presidency. And Reince Priebus, as the head of the RNC in his previous role, was fairly loyal to Trump and was not supportive of some of the coup talks that were happening amongst Mitt Romney and other people during the election. I think there are 2 points that we can take from this firing. One, what a horrific, historically horrific manager and leader Donald Trump is. I mean, we are just winning so much right now, I can barely handle it. But that's the problem, is he is all smoke and mirrors and all ego. There is nothing behind those eyes. He is not a smart individual, and he is someone that really is just in it for himself. So when you're trying to work towards a larger goal, you can't do that with someone who's entirely self-interested. That's just not how it's going to work. And the people that are below him are entirely self-interested. That's why Kellyanne Conway, despite making no sense, is constantly on TV, because she wants to make a name for herself. And a bunch of other examples, Scaramucci being the latest one. So this is the problem with this administration. They are unable to get anything done because they don't have a strategy, and because they are all such egomaniacs. And to America's benefit, they were unable to get healthcare passed, and Trump was unable to lead in that area because there's no cohesive leadership in the White House because, again, yes, they are politically entirely self-interested. So the second thing is the media. They will be such enormous hypocrites if they give Scaramucci some sort of corporate media job. They will be enormous hypocrites if they hire Sean Spicer. They will be enormous hypocrites if they hire the Mooch. But they did hire past Trump surrogates. Corey Lewandowski, for example, CNN has him on. Jeffrey Lord, who is a moron, is always on CNN. Trump loyalists. But they have gone on the record publicly bashing Sean Spicer for holding these off-camera briefings, mocking Scaramucci for, rightfully so, for this ridiculous display that he has had. But if they hire either of these two guys, what unbelievable hypocrites they are. Truly. And I will mock them until eternity. So there is almost a silver lining here. The dysfunction in the Trump administration is allowing America to not have some of his disastrous policies passed, although what he's doing beneath the surface with the environment, because he doesn't really need Congress for these executive orders for the environment, has been disastrous, so pay attention to that. He's really just dismantling all these protections for the environment. But for a lot of these policy goals, the fact that this administration is so dysfunctional might be the silver lining for the Trump presidency. Because if they were able to get something together, it'd be bad news for all of us. Whew! Who's next for the job? The reality show continues. That's what Trump's good at. Have a good day, guys.